and military and regime sites across the country, with no signs of letting down. U.S. President Donald Trump says the operation will continue until all the objectives are met. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Israel should expect many more days of war. Meanwhile, the Israeli home front continues to show remarkable resilience in the wake of round-the-clock missile barrages and a rising death toll. All of this and more on day 3 of the war and on the eve of Purim, what is meant to be a happy holiday here in Israel. And how apt. The holiday celebrates the Jewish salvation of the Jewish people in ancient Persia, or modern-day Iran, from Haman's plot to annihilate them. And Hezbollah has entered the war, firing rockets and drones at northern Israel from Lebanon overnight, prompting immediate and intense Israeli airstrikes in Beirut and across southern Lebanon, and buildup of forces along the Lebanese border. Sirens blared in Haifa and surrounding areas just after 1 a.m. as rockets were launched from Lebanon. The IDF said one rocket was intercepted while others landed in open areas. 2 drones were also shot down over the upper Galilee. There were no immediate reports of injuries. Hezbollah claimed responsibility, calling the attack revenge for the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. The group said it targeted a missile defense site south of Haifa and described the barrage as a warning. Israel responded with dozens of airstrikes, including in Beirut's Dakhya district, a Hezbollah stronghold. The IDF said it hit headquarters, infrastructure, and a vehicle carrying Radwan force operatives. More than a dozen explosions were reported in the Lebanese capital, with residents fleeing and schools opening as shelters. Defense Minister Israel Katz said that Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem will be targeted due to his action. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir said Israel was prepared for a multi-front campaign and warned that any enemy threatening the north would pay a heavy price. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Prime Minister Nawaf Salam condemned the rocket fire as an irresponsible act that risks dragging the country into war, as his government called an emergency meeting. The Prime Minister said that the Lebanese government prohibits any military action from Hezbollah. The Northern Front is now fully active, marking a dramatic escalation in the regional conflict. And we have this from the Army spokesperson.
חיזבאללה פתח באש אתמול בלילה. הוא ידע מה הוא עושה. הזהרנו אותו. הוא ישלם על זה מחיר כבד. אנחנו ערוכים היטב. גייסנו קרוב ל100,000 אנשי מילואים, עשרות גדודים, חטיבות, אוגדות, ערוכות בהגנה על גבול הצפון, וערוכות לכל האפשרויות, בהגנה ובהתקפה. כל האפשרויות על השולחן. אנחנו מקיימים מערכות מצב, וכל האפשרויות על השולחן.
And not just in Lebanon, IDF airstrikes against regime targets in Iran continued overnight and throughout the day. The IDF says more than 2,000 bombs have been dropped across Iran since the start of Operation Roaring Lion on Saturday morning. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz reports.
Air Force strikes in Iran intensified overnight. The IDF says it's carried out over 700 sorties in the first days of the campaign, delivering massive blows to Iran's missile and air defense infrastructure. Targets included ballistic missile factories, launch sites near Qom, air defense batteries in western Iran, and stockpiles of explosives intended for attacks on Israel. The Israeli Air Force has achieved total air superiority over Tehran. Over the past 24 hours, the IDF struck dozens of the regime's military command centers, including headquarters belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, intelligence headquarters, IRGC Air Force command centers, and internal security headquarters. Israeli officials told Channel 12 the joint campaign with the United States is progressing faster than expected, with a focus not only on military targets, but also on regime security headquarters, including Revolutionary Guard and internal repression forces in Tehran. IDF Chief of Staff Zamir says significant achievements have already been made, but warns many more days of fighting lie ahead. Prime Minister Netanyahu said the attacks will intensify in the coming days.
אנחנו במערכה שבה אנחנו מביאים את כל כוחו של צה"ל כפי שלא היה מעולם למערכה הזאת כדי להבטיח את קיומנו ועתידנו. אבל אנחנו מביאים למערכה הזאת גם את סיועה של ארצות הברית, את ידידי נשיא ארצות הברית דונלד טראמפ את צבא ארצות הברית, ושילוב הכוחות הזה מאפשר לנו לעשות את מה שאני מייחל לעשות כבר 40 שנה. להכות את משטר הטרור שוק על ירך. כך הבטחתי וכך נעשה.
And meanwhile, Iran continues to launch missiles across Israel, with strikes reported in the north, south, and center of the country. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman was in Tel Aviv today and reports on the latest missile barrages and the rising death toll.
Well, thanks, Lidar. I'm here in Tel Aviv on a day where we've already seen a lot of tragedy from the Iranian rockets striking Israel. Earlier today, a rocket struck down a direct hit in Be'er Sheva, injuring dozens of people, many of them moderately. That was in a residential neighborhood. Magen David Adom described the people exiting their homes in shock and fear. This comes a day after a deadly strike in Beit Shemesh. Beit Shemesh is an area, a city located between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. 9 people were killed in that rocket attack. 6 of them have already been named today. Those names are Ronit Elimelech. Sarah is her mother, Ronit's mother. That was a first responder from United Hatzalah. Oren Katz, 16-year-old Gavriel Ravach, and Bracha Cohn and her son Yossi Cohn. Those are the 6 of the 9 victims that have been named thus far. Those are on top of a woman who was killed in her 40s on the first night in Tel Aviv. In addition, there have been many others that have been injured. The health ministry is talking about close to 700 people who have been transferred to hospital for care. Of those, at least close to 200 are still in hospital receiving treatment, a handful of them in serious condition. Now, this comes after a whole group of rockets also struck down, not causing casualties, but causing great damage. As Hezbollah entered the war this morning, rockets were fired into the Galilee. 2 homes received direct hits, being demolished. In addition to that, there was a rocket attack that was released last night, although it happened on the first day of the war at Sultan's Pool in Jerusalem. That attack caused extensive damage from some of the shrapnel, only 500 meters from the Holy City and from the Temple Mount. Moreover, last night there was an attack in Jerusalem, harming 5 people who were injured, 1 moderately. That was on the outskirts of Jerusalem off of Highway 1. And of course, as I mentioned, the direct hit in Be'er Sheva, which struck a synagogue and harmed many residential buildings. The Homefront Command is calling on the community to follow the directives. Stay in your shelter until the Homefront Command issues a release for you to leave. They want to remind people that if they're going to, when the siren rings the first time, that is a warning to let you know that one is on the way. Make sure you're within 5 to 10 minutes of a shelter. After the rockets come, a new siren will go off, and at that point, you must take cover.
We're here near the bomb shelter. We're waiting for the alert so we can distribute food to people who are hiding from the rockets. It has been scary. Every 5 to 10 minutes we're getting alerts. We have to run to the bomb shelter, so it feels even scarier than last time with Iran, to go around the streets and actually help. But we have to keep our spirits high, so we can make it out of this alive and even stronger.
Amazing. Well, Nitai, thank you so much. And Lidar, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mayan, for the report. And U.S. Central Command says American armed forces have struck more than 1,000 targets across Iran in the first 2 days of Operation Epic Fury. U.S. President Donald Trump is indicating that the war may continue for a month. According to the Pentagon, the U.S. strikes have focused on missile installations, command and control centers, communications hubs, air defense systems, IRGC facilities, and other strategic military sites. President Trump also announced that U.S. forces have sunk 9 Iranian naval warships. Additional naval assets, including a Jamaran-class corvette, were struck in the Gulf of Oman and reportedly left sinking.
The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved.
The U.S. military has confirmed 3 American service members were killed and 5 seriously wounded during the operation. Officials have not yet released details about the circumstances of their deaths, citing next of kin notification. Meanwhile, the campaign has included Tomahawk cruise missile launches from warships, as well as strikes by aircraft carriers and other U.S. air assets in the region. And meanwhile, Iranian missiles and drones continue targeting U.S. military assets in the region, including attempted strikes on American bases and naval forces in the Gulf, as well as the British air base in Cyprus. And joining us now with more on the latest on day 3 of the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran are Dr. Walid Fares, foreign policy expert and author of Iran Imperialist Republic, and Major General Yaakov Amidrol from JINSA and former head of the National Security Council. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So, Major General Amidrol, let's start with you. It's day 3 of Operation Roaring Lion. What is your assessment of this operation so far?
So far, it's went, I think, very good. Not just good, but very good. The Americans and Israelis have 3 missions in this war. One is to destroy totally the ability of the Iranians to produce nuclear military capability in the future. The second is to destroy the whole project of long-range ballistic missiles. And the third one, which is more complicated, is to prepare all the terms, all the atmosphere, the situation that will allow the Iranian opposition to go to the street and to topple the regime. It is something that is not measurable. You never know when you reach the point in which the regime is weak enough to be taken by the rebels, by the opposition. We cannot produce the opposition in Iran. It is an Iranian project that they should do it. They have to understand that that is their time to do it. Yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu tried to convince the Iranians by speaking in their language in all the Iranian channels that this is what they're supposed to do, but we cannot do it for them. This is something that they should do. What we can do, the Americans and us together, is to make all the efforts for making the regime much weaker, its actions in Tehran, outside Tehran, whatever is needed.
And Dr. Fares, so we've seen over 2,000 bombs dropped. We've seen the supreme leader taken out, dozens of senior regime figures also eliminated. What can you tell us about the state of the Iranian regime today?
Well, the work of our government and Israel have been, fantastic. It has not ever reached that level before over the 40 years plus of the Islamic regime in Iran, and the coordination between the two countries is quasi-perfect. I'm sure there are always issues, but as the general has mentioned, the strategic direct goals of the alliance is basically to weaken the regime, weaken it strategically. Number one, obviously, anything that has to do with the nuclear problem, that has to be resolved, regardless of who is going to be in power in Iran or not. Second, obviously, the missiles. 3, this will have a huge impact on the regime's support of Khomeinist or Jihadi Khomeinist terrorist organizations around the world. Of course, you're going to feel the pressure now coming from Hezbollah. We know that, and the militias in Iraq will be activated. So the two powers have been able to engage in the weakening of the regime on the military level. The more complicated is going to be definitely how to engage with the opposition or the various oppositions to the regime. One statement made yesterday, I think, by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and we heard many members of Congress talking about it, is how to support the population. Number one, the combined Air Force could be, that's a possibility, targeting the specific units, the repressive units, they call them, the ones who basically killed 40 to 50,000 Iranians. If that happens while the demonstrations are taking place, what's going to happen is that the demonstrations will keep moving. They pick up some weapons, probably from the police, that is, and we've seen some of these videos. That would be the early beginning of the takeover. As President Trump said, seize the institutions, identify who has been killing you, and going from there on. But I still say, in conclusion, there need to be a minimal communications with the organizations that are now leading the work on the ground and in the diaspora, a minimum to coordinate, because I challenge one point just to make sure to get an answer, which is we are asking the part of the militias, that would be the IRGC and the Basij, to depose their weapons and then or remit them. Remit them to whom? You need to have an organized force that would seize those weapons and then advance. That is still to be found, in my view.
So you're both in agreement that the challenge here is to create the atmosphere or the conditions for regime change. Major General Amidol, so what should we expect moving forward in the coming days? You know, Israel has extended this special emergency situation through to March 12th. What is the timeline that we are looking for this operation? And you mentioned that there are 3 goals. What about the first 2 goals in terms of the ballistic missiles and in terms of the nuclear facilities as well?
We begin the job to be done in June. We understand now that we understood that we have other elements which hadn't been destroyed, and this war is going to finish the job. How long it will take, I don't know, because I'm not familiar with all the details of the targeting system that we and the Americans are based on. It is very much depends on the intelligence that we had before the war, because I see very few targets emerging from the war itself, and it will take at least days and weeks to finish all the whole list which we had. But when it is coming to weakening the regime, it is endless list that can go on for weeks, because you never know when the regime is weak enough, and you can do whatever you can to make it weaker and weaker every day. So it's not going to be a short war. It's going to be a long one.
And so, Dr. Fares, I mean, what are you hearing from inside Iran? I mean, we've seen the videos of Iranians celebrating over the death of Ali Khamenei, but what can you tell us about the Iranians themselves, the state of the protests? You mentioned that, you know, there needs to be some kind of opposition, some kind of organized body. Are we, and you said that we haven't seen that yet. What about the Crown Prince? What can you tell us about the state of the people of Iran today?
Thank you. Let me re-clarify a little bit. There are organized movements, outside in the diaspora. They have been demonstrating. I mean, I'm sure you've seen all these videos of hundreds of thousands of Iranians in the diaspora. I mean, Toronto, 500,000, Los Angeles, 300,000. I want to go to the numbers, but there has been about 1.5 million diaspora Iranians. And of course, their allies are many other nationalities in the Middle East not happy with that regime, the Israelis, Jewish Americans, and others. That is a fact. And they have organized, the mainstream among them have organized a conference in Germany last summer, where they launched an interim or a transitional government. Now, other groups also have launched their own equivalent, but the mainstream one was in Munich. And you mentioned Mr. Pahlavi, Prince Pahlavi. Yes, he has been meeting with many people. So there is a fact that there are institutions that are working to represent. The question is inside the country. So inside the country, there are no headquarters for political parties you can deal with. They are all supportive of this or other movements. There is some competition, but it's clear that those who are taking the lead, you can see it from the videos, are younger people. The only problem here is that most of the popular opposition inside Iran reject any cooperation with any high-ranking official, because most high-ranking officials have been part of the repression against them. So that has to be solved one way or another.
So there is certainly still a lot of work to be done, and we are only in the early days of this war. Dr. Walid Fares, Major General Yaakov Amidrol, thank you both so much for joining us today and for your unique insights.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
And as Operation Epic Fury intensifies, Israel and the United States once again find themselves on the front lines in the fight for freedom. The threat is real and the stakes are high. Iranian rockets have struck communities in Israel and killed innocent Israelis. And across the Holy Land, red alert sirens continue to sound, giving Israelis just 15 seconds to reach shelter. But in moments like this, the bond between America and Israel stands strong, united by shared values, shared faith, and a shared commitment to freedom and democracy. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground right now, providing life-saving food, first aid supplies, and emergency essentials for security personnel. The fellowship is also supplying Israeli hospitals, emergency rooms, and bomb shelters with critical medical equipment. This aid is focused on Israel's most vulnerable, the elderly, children, and families. In times like this, your support matters. Stand for Israel, stand for freedom, and give generously today. To rush your gift, you can call 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ, or go online at ifcj.org. And moving on, hundreds, and in some cities, thousands of Iranians living in the United States and across Europe have taken to the streets celebrating the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, following the U.S.-Israeli strikes on the regime. In New York's Times Square, Iranian-American demonstrators waved pre-revolution lion and sun flags, as well as American and Israeli flags, chanting "Khamenei is gone," an alternative for Iran, King Reza Pahlavi, a reference to exiled opposition figure Reza Pahlavi. Similar scenes played out in London, where regime opponents protested outside the Iranian embassy, in Berlin, where exiles gathered at the Brandenburg Gate, and in Paris, where thousands marched in what many called a historic moment for Iran's opposition. Celebrations were also reported in Rome, Athens, Lisbon, and Brussels, with many calling openly for regime change in Tehran and thanking the United States and Israel for the strikes.
We're here because we support King Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince of Iran, the son of the last Shah. We are his supporters, and we believe that he will lead a peaceful transition in our country.
And his flag, which flag is it?
Israel.
Why?
Because we love Israel. We don't hate Jews. We are not anti-Semites, and because Israel, we have been friends, our countries, our nations, since ancient times.
The people of Iran and the people of Israel. It's day 3 of the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States and Israel are continuing Operation Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury, targeting regime senior figures, ballistic missile sites, nuclear facilities, and military and regime sites across the country, with no signs of letting down. U.S. President Donald Trump says the operation will continue until all the objectives are met. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Israel should expect many more days of war. Meanwhile, the Israeli home front continues to show remarkable resilience in the wake of round-the-clock missile barrages and a rising death toll. All of this and more on day 3 of the war and on the eve of Purim, what is meant to be a happy holiday here in Israel. And how apt. The holiday celebrates the Jewish salvation of the Jewish people in ancient Persia, or modern-day Iran, from Haman's plot to annihilate them. And Hezbollah has entered the war, firing rockets and drones at northern Israel from Lebanon overnight, prompting immediate and intense Israeli airstrikes in Beirut and across southern Lebanon, and buildup of forces along the Lebanese border. Sirens blared in Haifa and surrounding areas just after 1 a.m. as rockets were launched from Lebanon. The IDF said one rocket was intercepted while others landed in open areas. 2 drones were also shot down over the upper Galilee. There were no immediate reports of injuries. Hezbollah claimed responsibility, calling the attack revenge for the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei.